Welcome to some XML raw code examples. And so let's start off and let's just take a look at a very simple example. First, let's look at the data we're going to use. I'm going to do select top three. We're going to get the first name and the last name from that person.person table. Okay, and so if I execute this, you will see what's coming back. We're just getting these three names in this format on the table, right? So let's see about adding a little bit of XML functionality here. I'll go to the next line and I'll put 4 and I'll put these in uppercase so you can see them easier. 4 XML raw. Now, if I execute this, you're going to notice that I get XML back, but it's in a grid type layout, and I don't like that. So I'm going to go up here on the toolbar, and if you notice just to the left here, I can put the result to text. Now, this has always been an option. I haven't mentioned it before. I don't want to add any more useless confusion to you. But notice if I execute it now, it's coming back more in a text environment, okay? And if I scroll over, you can see that it all came out in one place. But notice what it's done here. It has created XML output, but it's really kind of plain, inelegant XML output. I have a row column, and the first name and the last name are all in there as attributes, okay? Well, I can adjust this, and I can make it look a little different simply by putting a comma and putting the elements keyword, and this is basically instructing it, hey, create elements out of these column names, if you will. And so I can execute that, and you can see now, and I'll just kind of use my return key and my arrow key here to turn this into what you would normally see as XML. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of these here and just bear with me, and you'll notice what this is looking like. Okay, and I'll just push that on down. Now notice, and I'll come up here, and to make this easier for you, I'll indent a couple of these, and you can now start to see exactly what's coming out. Now keep in mind, the indentions are added for our benefit. For machine readable, it certainly doesn't need those. It can read the tags. But notice, we have a row that starts right here. Then we have our first name. Then we have our last name. And notice that's a nice little element there. There's the name inside the last name tag opening and last name closing. This tells us that's the end of that row. Then here's the start of another row. And we have Catherine Abel in there, right? Now, let me go back and just execute this command without the XML. So I'll highlight just that and let you see one more time what this looks like in the text layout. Now, I mentioned in one of the previous videos about XML that we can change the amount of output that comes out right here. And notice if I go to Tools, Options, I can come down to, and yours will look like this, Query Results. And if I go down to SQL Server and look at results to text, notice the maximum number of characters 256, okay? Well, I'll change that to say 3000 and click OK. And it will tend not to truncate it. This one didn't truncate because we put a lot out there, okay? But if I put like the top 35 and execute that, a lot of times what you'll see is that it starts to truncate it. Notice it did truncate this right here at the end of that first name, but you got a lot more data out of that you can play with. Although basically what you're looking for in here is form, and then you will consume this data in a little bit different ways. But for now, let's go back to this. So we added the elements keyword with 4XML raw, and we got that. But can we do anything else with that? Well, this is just calling this row. Well, what if I wanted to say, you know what, that is an individual employee? Then I can add a little something here, and let me back up. And what I'm going to do is just come out here and put employee in parentheses by raw, and that is telling it to use that as the designation for the row, and it's automatically going to use the columns for the elements. And so I will execute that, and then you'll notice what has happened here. And let me come down here again and kind of do some manual layout stuff here, the manual formatting. And you'll notice this is looking a lot better. Okay, and I'll just push those down out of the way. And now we can see our XML is really starting to take on some intuitive structure here. Notice we see that we clearly have an employee in between these tags. The first name, Syed. Notice first name, opening tag, first name, closing tag, Abbas. That is what a XML output with XML raw looks like. Now, there is one other thing that would be cool if we could add to this, and that would be a root element. And so how would we go about doing that? Well, we've told this to name our rows. We've told elements to name our columns as elements. Let's put a comma and put the keyword root, and then just open the parentheses. And our root is employees, plural, right? Just like that. And so let's execute that. And notice the difference that it made. And so now we have even better description. And let me come over here and do my manual layout here so you can see it. And we'll just push these other ones down. And so now you can see how that has worked out. And notice I'm not going to see the end, the close of employees until I get to the very end. And here it is down here. Okay. And let me just kind of delete all this other stuff out and show you exactly what it would look like if I just returned one row. Okay, so that is pretty cool. I'm now getting some pretty significant formatted XML out using XML raw. So play with this, go look at the documentation in Books Online, and you can get a lot of mileage out of XML raw.